The kitchen was filled with the comforting aroma of rosemary and garlic, a typical Saturday evening in our home. I had just returned from a long day at work, looking forward to the familiar routine of dinner with my wife, Emily. We had built a life together filled with laughter, shared dreams, and of course, a mutual love for good food. Emily had always been the heart of our home, her culinary skills turning even the simplest meals into feasts. But that evening, as I stepped through the door, the atmosphere felt different, thicker, charged with an unspoken tension. I found her sitting at the dining table, phone in hand, her laughter ringing out like a melody I hadn't heard in a while. It wasn't the laughter I was used to. This was light and airy, a sound that felt foreign. I paused, my hand gripping the doorframe, a sense of unease creeping in. She was talking to someone, and the way her eyes sparkled as she spoke sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. I felt it in my gut, a gnawing suspicion that something was off. I cleared my throat and she looked up, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. "Hey, you're home early," she said a little too brightly. I forced a smile, but my mind was racing. Who was she talking to? I stepped closer, trying to catch a glimpse of her screen, but she quickly turned it away, a guilty look flashing across her face. "Just a friend," she said, but the way she hesitated told me it was more than that. My heart raced as I replayed the scene in my mind, her laughter echoing like a taunt. I had heard that tone before, the way she spoke, the warmth in her voice. It was the kind of warmth one reserved for someone special. My heart sank as the realization hit me. That night I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. After dinner I pretended to be engrossed in a book, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't focus on the words. I kept thinking back to that laughter, the glimmer in her eyes. I needed to know the truth. Days passed and the unease only grew. I started to notice little things, her late nights, the way she'd often be glued to her phone, and the subtle changes in her demeanor. I felt like I was losing her, and I had to find out why. One evening, as she took a shower, I found her phone lying on the couch. My heart raced as I picked it up, hesitating for just a moment. I knew I shouldn't, but the temptation was too great. I unlocked it, and there it was, a conversation that shattered my world. Flirty messages exchanged with none other than a well-known celebrity chef. My hands trembled as I read through the texts, each word cutting deeper than the last. The way they talked, the intimacy in their words, it was clear this was more than just a fling. I felt like I was suffocating, my chest tightening as the betrayal washed over me. I confronted her that night, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Emily, are you seeing someone else?" The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She didn't deny it. Instead, she broke down, tears streaming down her cheeks as she confessed. It's complicated," she stammered, her voice cracking. "He's famous and I didn't mean to happen. I love you, but he makes me feel alive." Those words pierced through me like a dagger. I felt rage bubbling beneath the surface, but there was also a profound sadness. The woman I loved had chosen someone else, someone who could give her a taste of the excitement I hadn't been able to provide. The betrayal felt like a heavy weight on my chest, suffocating me. As she sobbed, I realized I was standing at a crossroads. I could either let this destroy me or take control of the situation. I chose the latter. I would make her understand the consequences of her actions, and I would make him pay for taking her from me. The promise of revenge ignited a fire deep within me. I would expose this chef for who he truly was, and I would ensure that every dish he cooked from now on would taste like regret. The days that followed my discovery felt like a surreal blur. Emily and I moved through our house like ghosts, each of us trapped in our own thoughts. I could feel the weight of her betrayal hanging in the air, thick and suffocating. I tried to act normal, but every time I looked at her, all I could see was the image of her laughing with him, the celebrity chef whose name had become synonymous with culinary excellence. I was drowning in a sea of anger and betrayal, and my heart felt heavy in my chest. I couldn't escape the reality of what she had done. The affair was a knife twisting in my gut, and I was desperate for answers. I needed to know how long it had been going on, how deep the connection was, and most importantly, what she felt for him. I confronted her again, my voice trembling with a mix of fury and heartbreak. "Was it just physical, or do you love him?" I demanded, my words punctuated by the ache in my throat. She looked away, her eyes glistening with tears. It started as a crush, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I never intended for it to go this far. He made me feel special, like I was part of something bigger. I was drawn in by the excitement. Excitement. That word echoed in my mind, a bitter reminder of what I had lost. I had always thought love was about stability, about building a life together, but in that moment I realized Emily craved something different, something more thrilling. I felt a storm of emotions swirling within me: anger, sadness, betrayal, and a desperate need to reclaim my dignity. I wanted to scream, to throw things, but instead I found myself retreating into silence. I had never been one to lash out, but the urge to hurt her back was boiling beneath the surface. Days turned into weeks, and the affair continued to haunt me. I couldn't shake the image of her with him, the way she would light up at the mention of his name. I knew I had to do something. Revenge was the only way to regain a sense of control over my life, to make her understand the gravity of her choices. I began to research the celebrity chef, looking into his restaurant, his reputation, and any whispers of impropriety. As I scoured the internet, I found articles praising his culinary genius, but I also stumbled upon rumors of health code violations. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a way to expose him, not just for Emily's sake, but for my own sanity. The more I delved into his world, the more I realized how much I despised him. This man had taken my wife, had stolen the happiness we built together, and now he was basking in the adoration of the public. But what if I could turn that adoration into shame? What if I could ruin his reputation, just as he had ruined my marriage? That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with possibilities. I envisioned the day when I would walk into his restaurant, armed with evidence of his negligence. I could almost hear the gasps of his patrons as I revealed the truth. It would be glorious, my revenge served cold, just like the dishes he prepared. But as I plotted, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered doubts. Was I really willing to go down this path? What would it mean for me? Would it bring me the closure I craved, or would it only deepen my pain? I pushed those thoughts aside. I needed to act to reclaim my sense of self, and if that meant tearing down the man who had taken everything from me, so be it. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. I would gather evidence against him, expose his flaws, and ensure that every dish he cooked would taste like regret. It was time to take action. I started by visiting his restaurant, a trendy spot that boasted a Michelin star. The moment I stepped inside, I was struck by the ambience, an overwhelming sense of sophistication and style, as if the place itself was a testament to his ego. I took a seat at the bar, ordering a drink as I scanned the room. I watched the staff bustle about, their energy electric, but I was looking for something else. I needed to see the chef in action. It wasn't long before he emerged from the kitchen, a charismatic smile plastered on his face as he greeted his guests. I felt a surge of anger as I watched him charm everyone around him, oblivious to the pain he had caused. I spent the next few days observing the restaurant, taking notes on the staff's interactions, the cleanliness of the kitchen, and any signs of negligence. I documented everything, my heart racing with each new piece of evidence I uncovered. It felt good to have a plan, to be in control of something for once. But the deeper I got, the more questions arose. Was I really ready to destroy someone's career? Did he even know the havoc he had wreaked on my life? As I wrestled with these thoughts, I realized that my revenge had become about more than just him. It was about reclaiming my own worth, about standing up against the betrayal that had shattered my world. The path I had chosen was dark, but it was the only one that made sense. I would expose him, and in doing so, I would expose the truth about Emily and her choices. As I sat in my small home office, surrounded by scattered papers and notes, the weight of my plan began to take shape. I had spent days observing the celebrity chef's restaurant, documenting every detail I could find: cleanliness issues, staff complaints, and even whispers of health code violations. Each note felt like a step closer to reclaiming my dignity and exacting the revenge I so desperately craved. My mind was a tumultuous storm of emotions. I felt like a detective, piecing together a case against this man who had invaded my life. I had once admired his talent from afar, but now he represented everything I despised. He had taken my wife's heart and turned our life into something unrecognizable. I needed to expose him, not just for my own sake, but to show Emily the consequences of her betrayal. I began to research the specific health codes in our state, familiarizing myself with the regulations that restaurants were bound to follow. It was a tedious process, but I was fueled by a fire I hadn't felt in a long time. I envisioned the look on Emily's face when she learned what I was doing, the way she would finally understand the pain she had caused me. But as I plotted my next steps, I couldn't help but grapple with my own moral compass. Was it right to ruin someone's career over a personal vendetta? I wrestled with the question, but ultimately I brushed it aside. He had taken my wife, my happiness, my life, and I was determined to make him pay. The first step was to gather tangible evidence. I needed to document everything I could about the restaurant's practices, and that meant going back in person. I returned to the restaurant, this time under the guise of a regular customer. I took a seat at the bar, ordered a drink, and observed. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with laughter and the clinking of glasses, but all I could focus on was the chef, who was once again charming everyone around him. I watched as he interacted with his staff, barking orders and demanding perfection. Yet beneath the surface of his charisma, I sensed a darkness. There was something unsettling about the way he treated his employees, and I made a mental note to dig deeper. I needed to talk to the staff, to understand the inner workings of his kitchen. As I sat there, I overheard snippets of conversations that piqued my interest. A waiter complained about the lack of proper sanitation in the kitchen, while a chef muttered about the pressure to cut corners in food preparation. My heart raced. This was the kind of information I needed. If I could get someone to talk, to go on the record about the violations, it would strengthen my case. I spent the next few days hanging around the restaurant, building rapport with the staff. I would order food, chat with them, and share a laugh or two. It was a delicate dance, one that required me to tread lightly. I didn't want to raise suspicion, but I also needed to gather enough evidence to make a significant impact. One evening, as I was finishing my meal, I struck up a conversation with a young waitress named Sarah. She seemed friendly and approachable, and I sensed that she was disillusioned with the restaurant's management. I casually asked her about her experience working there, and she opened up about the pressure they faced. "It's crazy in the kitchen," she admitted, her eyes darting around as if she were worried someone might overhear. "We're always rushed, and sometimes corners are cut. I've seen things that would make your stomach turn." My heart raced at her words. This was the kind of information I needed. I pressed her for details, but she was hesitant to share too much. "I can't really talk about it," she said, glancing nervously at the kitchen door. "But let's just say I wouldn't eat here if I were working here." I took her words to heart, and the following week I made my way to the local health department. I had done my research and knew exactly what to ask for. I wanted to file an anonymous complaint, citing the rumors I had heard about health code violations. It was a small yet significant step, one that could lead to an inspection of the restaurant. As I sat in the office, my heart pounding, I filled out the complaint form with meticulous detail. I included what I had learned from Sarah and my own observations. Once I submitted it, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I was finally taking action, and it felt empowering. But as I walked out of the health department, doubt crept in. What if I was wrong? What if I was ruining someone's life over personal grievances? The thought gnawed at me, but I quickly pushed it aside. This was about more than just revenge. It was about standing up for myself and reclaiming my life. In the days that followed, I continued to gather evidence. I returned to the restaurant, armed with my phone to discreetly document anything I could find. I captured images of the kitchen, the state of the food storage areas, and conversations with disgruntled staff. Each piece of evidence felt like a thread in a tapestry of revenge, weaving together a story that would expose the chef for who he truly was. As I compiled my findings, I couldn't help but think about Emily. I envisioned the moment when I would confront her with the evidence, the look of shock on her face as she realized the man she had chosen over me was not the culinary genius he appeared to be. I imagined her regret, her shame, and I felt a twinge of satisfaction at the thought. But deep down, I knew this wouldn't erase the pain she had caused me. Revenge wouldn't heal my heart, but it would give me a sense of closure. I was ready to move forward, to take control of my life again, and I would do whatever it took to make that happen. My plan was coming together, and I could almost taste the sweet victory that awaited me. With my plan firmly in place, I felt a sense of exhilaration coursing through me. The day of the health inspection was approaching, and I was determined to ensure everything went smoothly. I had spent weeks gathering evidence, and now it was time to watch it all unfold. My heart raced at the thought of the celebrity chef's downfall, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. I continued my undercover operations at the restaurant, making sure to blend in with the other customers. Each visit provided me with more insights into the chef's operations. I noticed the way the kitchen staff rushed to prepare meals, often cutting corners in a desperate attempt to keep up with the demand. I documented everything, my phone becoming an invaluable tool in my quest for revenge. One evening, as I sat at the bar nursing a drink, I struck up a conversation with another employee, a line cook named Mark. He seemed weary, and I could tell he was frustrated with the working conditions. I casually asked him about the kitchen practices, and he opened up about the pressure they faced. "It's insane back there," he said, shaking his head. "We don't have enough time to do things right. I've seen food stored improperly and the health code violations. They're real. But if we say anything, we risk losing our jobs." His words were like gold to me. I quickly pulled out my phone and recorded our conversation, ensuring I had proof of his claims. Mark was hesitant to go on the record, but I assured him that I would keep his identity confidential. I didn't want to put him at risk, but I needed as much evidence as possible to make my case strong. As the days passed, the anticipation of the health inspection grew. I had filed my complaint anonymously, but I had also taken it upon myself to alert a local food blogger who was known for exposing culinary fraud. I sent her an email detailing the issues I had witnessed at the restaurant, hoping she would investigate further. The idea of the restaurant being featured in her blog, coupled with the health department's findings, would be enough to bring the chef's empire crashing down. On the day of the inspection, I arrived at the restaurant early, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to witness the chaos that would ensue when the health inspector arrived. I found a discreet spot in the corner, ordering a coffee as I watched the staff bustle about. The tension in the air was palpable, and I could sense that something big was about to happen. When the inspector finally walked through the door, clipboard in hand, I felt a thrill of excitement shoot through me. The celebrity chef was immediately on high alert, his charming demeanor replaced by a look of concern. He greeted the inspector with forced enthusiasm, but I could see the sweat forming on his brow. This was the moment I had been waiting for. As the inspector began his examination of the kitchen, I leaned closer, trying to catch snippets of their conversation. I watched as he noted down violations, his pen moving quickly across the clipboard. I felt a rush of satisfaction knowing that my efforts were finally paying off. Minutes turned into what felt like hours as the inspection continued. I couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph as the inspector pointed out various issues: improper food storage, unsanitary conditions, and a lack of proper hygiene practices among the staff. It was everything I had hoped for, and I knew it would lead to serious consequences for the chef. As the inspection wrapped up, I saw the chef's demeanor change drastically. He was no longer the confident culinary genius. Now he was a man cornered, his empire crumbling around him. The inspector handed him a report, and I could see the panic in his eyes as he scanned the findings. I felt a rush of vindication wash over me. This was what I had wanted, to see him brought down a peg, to watch him squirm in the wake of his own negligence. But amidst the satisfaction, a small voice in my head reminded me of the personal cost of my actions. Was I really celebrating the downfall of a man, or was I simply projecting my own pain onto him? The inspector left, and I could see the chef frantically trying to rally his staff, barking orders as they rushed to address the violations. I took this opportunity to slip out of the restaurant, my heart racing with adrenaline. I had done it. I had set the wheels of revenge in motion, and now it was only a matter of time before the fallout would be felt. That evening I returned home, the weight of my actions heavy on my shoulders. I had achieved what I set out to do, but I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that lingered. I had exposed a man's negligence, and yet I felt no true victory. Instead, I was left with a hollow sense of satisfaction, a realization that revenge would not fill the void that Emily's betrayal had created. As I lay in bed that night, I replayed the events of the day in my mind. I thought about the chef, the way his world was falling apart, and I wondered if it was worth it. Would this truly bring me peace, or would it only serve to deepen the wounds in my own heart? The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of notifications on my phone. The food blogger I had contacted had published an article detailing the health department's findings, and it had gone viral. The restaurant was facing a public relations nightmare, and the chef's once glorious reputation was now in tatters. I felt a mix of emotions: anger, satisfaction, and an overwhelming sense of loss. I had succeeded in my plan, but at what cost? I knew I had to confront Emily with the truth of what I had done. It was time to show her the man she had chosen over me, to reveal the consequences of her actions in a way she couldn't ignore. As I prepared for the confrontation, I steeled myself for the emotional fallout. I would show her the evidence, the chaos I had unleashed, and I hoped it would make her see the gravity of her betrayal. But deep down, I wondered if it would also make me confront the truth about my own motivations. Was I seeking revenge, or was I simply trying to reclaim a sense of self that had been stripped away? The day had finally come. I could feel the tension building in my chest as I prepared to confront Emily with the evidence of her affair and the chaos I had unleashed upon the celebrity chef. I had spent sleepless nights wrestling with my thoughts, and now, as I stood in the living room, I felt a mixture of dread and anticipation. My heart raced, and I could sense the weight of what I was about to reveal. Emily walked into the room, her expression a blend of confusion and concern. She had sensed something was different, and I knew that the moment of truth was upon us. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that would change everything. "Emily, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but laced with an edge of urgency. She looked at me, her brow furrowing as she sat down on the edge of the couch. "What's going on? You look serious," she replied, her voice tinged with worry. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, knowing that the words I was about to say would shatter the fragile facade of our relationship. "I know about your affair," I said, my voice firm. "I found the messages and I confronted you about it, but that's not all." Her eyes widened and I could see the color drain from her face. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I've been watching," I continued, my heart pounding. "I've been gathering evidence against him. The chef you've been seeing, he's been cutting corners in his restaurant, violating health codes. I filed a complaint and the health department inspected his place. They found serious violations, and now his restaurant is facing closure." I watched as the realization dawned on her. Her expression shifted from shock to confusion and then to something deeper: fear. "You did what?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I exposed him, Emily. I wanted you to see the truth about the man you chose over me. He's not the culinary genius you think he is. He's a fraud, and now everyone will know." As I spoke, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I had taken control of my life, but at what cost? I was tearing down a man, but I was also tearing apart the last remnants of my marriage. Emily's eyes filled with tears, and I could see the conflict warring within her. "Why would you do this?" she asked, her voice breaking. "You could have just walked away. Why resort to this?" "Because you broke my heart," I replied, my voice rising. "You chose him, Emily. You chose excitement over our life together, and I needed you to understand the consequences of that choice." She shook her head, her tears spilling down her cheeks. I was wrong, I know that now, but this isn't how you fix things. You're only hurting yourself. Am I? I shot back, the anger bubbling to the surface. You hurt me first, you betrayed my trust, and now I'm taking a stand. I won't let him get away with it. I won't let you get away with it. Emily looked away, her hands trembling in her lap. You think this will make me realize something? You think I'll regret my choices? Maybe I do, but this isn't the way to prove it. I felt my resolve wavering as I watched her cry. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her that everything would be okay. But another part of me was furious, a fire ignited by the betrayal that still burned bright in my chest. You need to understand the pain you caused, I insisted, my voice softer now. You need to see the truth about him. Maybe I do, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But this isn't just about him, it's about us. You've taken it too far. I took a step back, the weight of her words hitting me hard. I had wanted revenge, but now I was faced with the reality of what I had done. I had exposed a man, yes, but in doing so I had also exposed the cracks in my own relationship. I don't know how to fix this, I said, my voice trembling. I don't know if I even want to. Emily wiped her tears, her expression shifting to one of determination. Then maybe we need to take a step back. I need to figure out what I want, and you need to decide what you want. This isn't just about revenge, it's about healing. Her words resonated within me, and I felt a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. Perhaps this confrontation could lead to something more than just pain and anger. Maybe there was a chance for us to heal, to understand the depths of our choices and the consequences they brought. But the question lingered in the air. Could I forgive her? Could I let go of the anger that had fueled my actions? I had set a course for revenge, but now I was faced with the reality of my own heart. I need time, I said finally, my voice heavy with uncertainty. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. Emily nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. I'll give you that time, but please don't lose yourself in this revenge. It won't bring you peace. As we sat in silence, the weight of our choices hung heavily in the air. I had achieved what I set out to do, but now I was faced with the realization that revenge wouldn't fill the void left by Emily's betrayal. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I had to confront my own feelings, my own pain, and the choices I had made in the name of revenge. In the days following my confrontation with Emily, the air in our home felt charged with a mix of tension and uncertainty. I had exposed the celebrity chef's negligence, and his restaurant was now facing the consequences of my actions. But as the dust settled, I found myself grappling with the emotional fallout of my choices. Revenge had brought me a fleeting sense of satisfaction, but it hadn't healed the wounds in my heart. I spent hours reflecting on what had transpired, replaying each moment in my mind. The thrill of exposing the chef and confronting Emily had been intoxicating, but it had also left me feeling hollow. I had wanted to reclaim my power, but instead, I felt more lost than ever. The anger that had fueled my actions began to fade, replaced by a deep sense of sorrow. Emily and I had agreed to take some time apart, a decision that felt both necessary and painful. I needed space to process my emotions, to figure out what I truly wanted moving forward. But in that solitude, I found myself confronting the reality of our relationship. I had been so consumed by betrayal and revenge that I had neglected to consider the love we once shared. As the days turned into weeks, I began to see the situation with clearer eyes. Emily had made a mistake, one that had hurt me deeply, but I realized that I had also made choices driven by anger and pain. I had sought to tear down a man, but in doing so, I had also risked losing the woman I loved. One evening, I sat on the couch, staring at the remnants of our life together. The photographs on the walls, the little mementos of our shared experiences, they all whispered of happier times. I closed my eyes and thought about the love we had built, the laughter we had shared, and the dreams we had woven together. It was a reminder that our relationship wasn't defined solely by betrayal. It was also filled with moments of joy and connection. With a newfound clarity, I made the decision to reach out to Emily. I wanted to talk, to see if there was a way forward for us. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and I wasn't sure if forgiveness was possible, but I was willing to try. I needed her to know that while the pain of her betrayal was still fresh, I wanted to understand her side of the story, to hear her feelings, and to see if we could rebuild the trust that had been shattered. I called her, my heart racing as I waited for her to pick up. "Emily, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course," she replied, her tone cautious yet hopeful. "When?" "Tonight, at our favorite place," I suggested, my mind drifting to the little cafe where we had spent countless afternoons together. "Okay," she agreed, and I could hear the hint of relief in her voice. As I arrived at the cafe later that evening, I felt a mixture of nerves and anticipation. The familiar atmosphere wrapped around me, but it felt different this time. I was no longer the man consumed by revenge. I was a man seeking understanding. When Emily arrived, our eyes met, and in that moment, I felt a flicker of the connection we once had. She looked beautiful, but there was a weight in her expression that mirrored my own. We sat down, and for a moment neither of us spoke. The silence was heavy, filled with unspoken words and emotions that had yet to be addressed. "I've had time to think," I began, my voice steady but soft, "about everything that happened, about us." "Me too," she replied, her eyes searching mine. "I know I hurt you, and I can't take that back, but I want to explain, I want to try to make things right." As she spoke, I listened intently, allowing her to share her feelings and the reasons behind her actions. She talked about the excitement she had felt, the way the chef had made her feel alive, but she also acknowledged the emptiness that followed. She admitted that she had been running away from the very life we had built together, and that her choices had been a reflection of her own struggles. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling. I lost sight of what was important. I see that now." Her vulnerability struck a chord within me. I realized that while her actions had caused me immense pain, she was also a person grappling with her own insecurities. I had been so focused on my own hurt that I had neglected to see her side of the story. "I don't know if I can forgive you right away," I said, my voice earnest, "but I want to understand. I want to work through this together." Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I want that too. I know it will take time, but I'm willing to fight for us." As we continued to talk, the walls between us began to crumble. We shared our fears, our hopes, and the love that had once brought us together. It was a long and difficult conversation, but it felt like a step toward healing. In the weeks that followed, we began to rebuild our relationship, one conversation at a time. It wasn't easy, and there were moments of doubt and pain, but we both knew that we were committed to making it work. I had learned the importance of understanding, and she had learned the weight of her choices. As for the chef, the fallout from the health inspection had been significant. His restaurant faced closure, and the public scrutiny had tarnished his reputation. I felt a sense of satisfaction knowing that justice had been served, but I also recognized that the revenge I had sought wouldn't bring me peace. Instead, it had forced me to confront my own pain and the fragility of love. In the end, I realized that revenge had not been the answer. It was understanding, communication, and a willingness to forgive that would lead me toward healing. Emily and I were not perfect, but we were willing to fight for our love, to learn from our mistakes, and to create a future together. As I looked at her, I saw not just the woman who had betrayed me, but the woman who was willing to grow, to change, and to love again. And in that moment, I knew that perhaps we could emerge from the ashes of our past, stronger than ever before. We had both learned valuable lessons through this ordeal, and while the road ahead may be challenging, I felt hopeful. Together, we would navigate the complexities of our relationship, one step at a time. And this time, we would do it together.